Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Wednesday evening slash night. For those of you that are joining us as we speak, I'm following up on penalties between Aston and Como, where David Raya has just saved one. It is now Bruno Guimaraes who stepped forward to come and take his own, but he manages to put that one away as Arsenal play their final game of preseason in preparation to face Man City on Sunday in the FA Community Shield. That will be at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff City. So, and then obviously, I'm also keeping tabs on the game between PSG and Aston Villa, for which PSG are leading by 2-1. Those goals by Desiree Doué and Kivica Kvaratskhelia, having a PSG in the lead against Aston Villa. That game is in the 69th minute. As we speak, it was Maggio who did score to restore parity towards the death of halftime for Aston Villa. Anyways, so plenty of things happening on this other side, or on my small phone here. I do have Man United against Leeds United. Those ones are also into a penalty shootout. Good evening, Viola. How are you doing? How's been your day? Have we interacted today? No, not. I was trying to remember. Anyways, it's been a bit of a long day for me. One of little action in terms of work to do because power was out, but I managed to catch up on a few things here and there at my absolute best. So I'm here hoping that everything goes according to plan. Noni Madueke is the other player that had stepped up and he hits his penalty on the frame. Some of these players. Anyways, that's how penalties go. Sometimes you score some, you miss some, and he's on the upright, despite sending the goalkeeper in the opposite direction. So that is happening as we speak. Like I promised you earlier on today, we did but that was a beautiful goal. They're just showing us a replay of Desire Doué's goal. Like I was saying earlier on, as I had promised you, we did premiere that video speaking about Liverpool, Manchester City, and everything in that regard. But David Raya has just served Alvaro Morata's penalty. That's 2 penalty saves for him tonight. And yeah, that's what perhaps you need. He did come on for the final 30 minutes thereabout as they prepare to play Man City. And if this game is anything to go by, we've seen even those some of those players that just returned from the World Cup, like Noni Madueke, like Mikel Merino, feature in this one, in preparation for that game on Sunday. I do suspect it could be David Raya that starts on Sunday against Man City. And then Christos Zolis seals it. He scores and Arsenal win the penalty shootout 4-3. There. Not much to celebrate, but that is officially Arsenal's final game of preseason as they prepare to play Man City on Sunday. I'm not even sure what's the kickoff time for that game. Maybe I need to look it up between Man City versus Arsenal for this Sunday game. Anyways, it is set for 5 p.m. East African time. I seem to have seen a clip. Some people are trying to advertise, I think, a watch along or a watch party for that game. But yeah, on Sunday, 16th August at 5 p.m. East African time will be the game between Arsenal and Man City. I don't know where that one will find me, but I will be looking forward to it there in terms of the FA Charity Shield or Community Shield. So anyways, it's just finished there. And let's get into our conversation. But are we even getting into the conversation? Really, that game is still ongoing between Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa, because it's a big game. It's the UEFA Super Cup, which Nuno Mendes with a powerful strike. The goalkeeper saved it. That's Marco Bizzotti. But Kivica Kvaratskhelia could not pounce in time for the rebound to send it away. But anyways, Okay, let's first update headlines for tonight, and we'll take it from there. We'll take it from there. But looks like Nuno Mendes seems to be cramping. UEFA Super Cup. UEFA Super Cup, PSG leading by 2-1 against Aston Villa. So I'm updating our headline and then transfer talk. Raymond Kangumba, Newcastle were at the receiving end of the 3-1 thumping. I think it was, what's his name? Harvey Barnes, who scored the consolation for Newcastle in that one as they lost to David Moyes' side by 3-1. Anyways, Bruno Fernandes is taking his penalty. So far it's 3-3. Oh, he's missed it. He's missed it. Bruno Fernandes just missed his penalty. They are in the preseason against Leeds United. So that one is ongoing. But the captain, Bruno Fernandes, has just missed his penalty. He tried to place it, but could not find the back of the net. Meanwhile, Unai Emery is making some changes. Captain John McGinn has been withdrawn, has also been given a yellow card here. Has it been withdrawn? Yeah, it appears that way. But let's see. Let's see. Raymond. Oh. Who's putting in the rebound? Matavi Safnov did parry it in the pathway in a danger zone. Anybody could have been there to strike it home, but Aston Villa could not react quick enough. Hi A1, how are you doing? Raymond, tell us something new. Tell us something new, something that you've not told us already in our previous broadcasts. You've talked about Omar Mamouche, you've talked about them all, and yet none of it is happening so far. Apart from the Everton game, that seems to be the only revelation that you've made. But so far it is 4-3 between Leeds United and Manchester United. So do not miss. Yuri Tillemans buries his and he puts it in the bottom corner. So it's 4-4. For the penalties, Joao Neves has been withdrawn. Fabian Ruiz is also on. Nuno Mendes also out for Theo Hernandez, in that game between PSG and Aston Villa. Aston Villa have created some goal-scoring opportunities, but they've not capitalized on them. This game should be at parity as we speak. But PSG retained the lead. They had out a pretty strong starting 11. Vitinha, Joao Neves in that midfield. Desiree Doué, Kivisha Kvaratskhelia, and Magnus Aklecho did start up front. Nuno Mendes, Achraf Hakimi, Marquinhos were among the starters, and the goalkeeper Matevi Safnov, alongside Willian Pacho. Warren Zaire-Emery was the other third player in that midfield, whereas for Aston Villa, it was Marco Bizot, Pau Torres, Victor Lindelof, Mati Cash, Ian Madsen that started in the back four, while Joe Gomez alongside Boubacar Kamara formed the midfield, the double pivots, and ahead of them was Emi Buendia, John McGinn, Hammings, and Majo there to lead the lines. He did score to restore parity, but things have not happened his way since then. So both sides have since made 3 changes or amendments to their starting 11s. But Nusa Mazorui has just converted from the penalty spot for Manchester United, and looks like they've won that one. 5-4 on penalties, are proceeding a 1-1 draw in normal time. So plenty of action is still ongoing. I know that Real Madrid are in action. I know that Real Madrid are in action. So let me see if I can get my hands onto that game. Real Madrid kickoff was at around 10 p.m. I'm trying to see if I can get access against Deportivo La Corona. And at least we have the final minutes of that pre-season friendly, which must be, it is on in the 77th minute. Yep. Oh, Roberto Martinez is out there in the stands for the UEFA Super Cup. You know. Oh. Okay. Remember, Aston Villa lost Lucas Digne to PSG. Arsenal are back in to try and pursue a deal for Ezri Konsa. Hi Daniel Titon, it's been a minute. I hope you're doing okay. Hope you're doing all right. So we'll be discussing all that in our transfer talk tonight. Arsenal's pursuit of Ezri Konsa, what does that mean? Are they able to price him away? He's what, 28, coming on 29? Possibly. But according to BBC Sport, Arsenal are in pursuit of his services. And then Galatasaray are really pushing to try and get a deal done for Gabriel Martinelli from Aston. We'll talk about that, and then what Arsenal's counter offer has been. So, do you think Bradley Barcola will join Liverpool? Well, the rest for him. Talks continue between the two clubs. He's already signaled that he would be open to joining Liverpool. But one thing to give Liverpool your word is one thing, and then to join them is entirely another. Now, the expectation is that he will leave PSG. Whether he ends up at Liverpool or a different destination remains to be seen. There had been reports that Arsenal were back in contention for him. I do not know if the transfer rumor mill never stops to deliver. So it is still in the workings, but I'm yet to see it from renowned sources to the effect of Arsenal, trying to make a push for that deal. But the one thing that we know with absolute certainty is that the interest is there in the player. So now Liverpool could be off-put by the financial demands of Paris Saint-Germain, who are seeking a fee of about 145 million pounds. That's quite significant, and whether they can actually pay that remains to be seen. We know that Liverpool have coughed the cash before. Previously, last summer, that's when they brought in Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen for 100 million pounds plus 16 in expected add-ons. Then they splashed the cash on Alexander Isak, 125 million pounds. I am not sure that they are keen on breaking their transfer record in this transfer window. At least they've not given us that indication. Initially, their pursuit was with Yan Diomande, but we know how that ended up. He's since ended up at Real Madrid. Anyways, so only time will tell. Sometimes things change as the transfer window wears on. Things take a bit of a different turn. So we'll have to wait and see whether it will actually happen for them. But for now, not much has developed on the movement of the player. But we'll just give it time. Otherwise, they could be forced to find alternatives in the market. And Now, my reservation about the deal for him to Liverpool is that what are they trying to solve? What are they trying to solve? Because my understanding is they are supposed to be pursuing a replacement for Mohamed Salah. Oh, Jesus Christ. Aston Villa were this close to restoring parity, this close, but they could not apply the finishing touch. Oh, Majo with quite the pass. And the cutback was just waiting for somebody to, tap it home, and nobody was there. And you can see that Unai Emery is pretty disappointed, but he's happy. He's happy with the move. He's just not happy. It it culminated into what he had hoped for in that regard. Meanwhile, Real Madrid are still leading Deportivo La Corona by a goal to nil in that preseason friendly, but PSG are pushing for the third, and so far they've come a bit close, but not close enough. Moments ago, it was Ousmane Dembele that was trying to conjure up something, but fell short. Unai Emery is losing. No, well, the game is not yet over. It still has time, some minutes on it to be played. Who knows where it could land us? A lot can happen in these remaining minutes because Aston Villa have not been without chances in this game, but they've just given it away now. Oh. Uh-oh. Boss Royal says, is the power back up? Yeah. The power is now back up. That's why we are illuminated. Otherwise, if it was not on, I wouldn't be doing this anyway. My battery was almost dead for the phone. It was, I think, at 7% or 6% by the time the power returned. So yeah, my heart hurts to see Emery lose. Unfortunately, you will have to get used to it because it is the nature of the sport. You win some, you lose some. He's not yet lost, but seems to be on the verge of losing unless something changes in these couple of minutes that is left. Like I've said, they've been creating chances. They've created the chances in the game. They've just not found the back of the net as often as they would have loved to. But they've really pushed in, dug in deep for against this PSG side, who have a tendency of having a slow start to the season. They have that tendency of having a slow start to the season, and then they grow into their season and go on to make wonders. But so far, looks like Vitinha and Marquinhos are doing everything to clear every ball that is brought into that box by Aston Villa. It's not been the sort of dominant performance that you'd ordinarily expect from a team like PSG versus a team like Aston Villa. Sometimes, given the disparity in quality that there is amongst both squads, but as you'd expect, PSG have dominated possession to the tune of 65% thus far, and compared to 35% of Aston Villa. But when it comes to shots on target, so far it's 4-4 and 3 off target for us. 3 off target for PSG and 6 off target for Aston Villa. So that shows you something that they've been going forward. They've been creating the chances. They've just not made the most out of them. In terms of corner kicks, it's 2-0 in favor of Aston Villa. So they've not just sat back, looking to defend or anything. They've been really going forward every time they've had the opportunity to surge forward. The UEFA Super Cup literally marks the official return of football, because oftentimes it's after that then you have the FA Community Shield, and then before you know it, leagues start, getting played. but I'm talking about the major leagues because in England the championship has already started and other lower leagues. So Paul Pogba is leaving Monaco, as a wise man once said, see where they play, how they play, if they play, that's football heritage. I can see you're quoting the words of Jose Mourinho. Now, well, yeah, Monaco are seeking to terminate Paul Pogba's contract. Remember, he had put pen to paper on a 2-year contract. Meanwhile, Senima Euro has just come on for Desiree Doué for PSG. So, like I say, so last summer, Paul Pogba put pen to paper on a 2-year contract with AC Monaco after he had returned from his, anti-doping ban, and it's safe to say that it is not worked out for both parties, but more importantly for Monaco as a team. Why? Because let's face it, guys, Pogba is a good player. Injuries have just not been kind to him, and it's one of those things that you hate about the sport. Now, every job has its occupational hazards. Usually, you've been at the receiving end of my internet glitches and other shenanigans, and that sort of thing. It's something that I have to deal with. Breakdown in internet service, power shutdowns, etc., etc. It's an occupational hazard, and for players in multiple sports, they have to deal with injuries. So some get lucky that they do not get as injured as often or almost never. Because when you talk about players like Gareth Barry, when you talk about players like James Milner, when you talk about players like Luka Modric, when you look at players like Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, they really been lucky to often play without injuries. Like when you sit down and compare the spells they've been out on injury, it's really small. Hello, Pedri, how are you doing? What's up? Can you shout out my friend Gabe Itch? Hi, Gabe Itch. So, anyways, so there's that. I mean, so sometimes you get away with it. Sometimes you don't. Some players, live with that. But for Paul Pogba, for all the talent he's had, he struggled with injuries in the later part of his career. Remember, after leaving Manchester United and returning to Juventus, he still hadn't played much. Why? Because of injuries. And then came the anti-doping ban, and the club ended up terminating his contract, and the rest is history. Then you think that AC Monaco have thrown him a lifeline, and he's going to go on to revive his career, because he was hoping that last season was going to be the catalyst for his return to competitive football, and maybe would have earned him a spot with the French national team. Again, injuries did not let him. And now, because of those very frustrations from Monaco, that's why they too are seeking to terminate his contract and part ways with him. Okay, I see your point about injuries, but Dembele was injured all the time, and now he has won the Ballon d'Or. Yeah. It happens. It happens. I'll give you another example. Look at Luke Shaw at Manchester United. I mean, you could struggle to remember the last time he had played an entire season without injury, and yet he did last season for Manchester United. Literally played every game that they had to play. So those things happen, but predominantly he has been out injured. Now, Dembele, yes, that campaign where he wins the Ballon d'Or, excellent for him. But look, go back to last season. Again, injuries were a part of that. Because in the league, he played 20 games and only started 9, I think. And he came off the bench in 11 of those games. I think he started, only about 9 games did he play 90 minutes anyways, something like that. But it was why? Because of injuries. So you have that sort of thing. Look at Ansu Fati. It's injuries that sort of put him off the sort of career growth path that he was on. He can still revive it. There's so many others. Look at the likes of Jack Wilshere. They had to retire early because of injuries. Injuries have cost some players careers. There was a player called Nicole Zaniolo. He used to play for SC Roma. He had a stint with Aston Villa on loan, and then I think with Olympiacos or something. I mean, he also struggled with injuries, but very, very good player. One of those left-footed players that you'd love to you would have loved to enjoy, play. Then the Roma captain, Lorenzo Pellegrini, something like that. Lorenzo Pellegrini, I think. He also at one point suffered an ACL, and his career, like in terms of living to his full potential, was never the same again. I could say the same for Riccardo Carafiori, having suffered that knee injury. So there's, all sorts of players. Some get to, rise to the occasion at some point. Look at Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. A huge part of his career was in injuries. Look at Naby Keita at Liverpool. So you have those players. Phil Jones at Manchester United, he was quite a prospect of a centre back, but injuries ruined that for him. So it happens. It's very unfortunate, but it does happen. It does happen. That pretty much Look at Gavi. Gavi constantly should be in the same conversation with Pedri, but part of why his career he's now behind the pecking order, or in terms of how you would assess both players, is because of injuries. So yeah, it's just the ugly side of the sport. You have to live with it, whether you like it or not. There's a game between Bayer Leverkusen and Nottingham Forest. In case you're interested, Napoli are in action, among others. Then in the WAFCON, there's a game between Morocco and Cameroon. So there's plenty of action for you guys in case you're interested on catching up on the latest from the world of football. So what is your view on Grimson's beef with Paul Pogba? I mean, when it comes to beef between people, I really I oftentimes have no opinion. Why? Because they have their reasons as to why they pick beef with those players. Maybe the assessment of them. But, oftentimes, here's what I've learned. Sometimes it is our love for particular players that breeds a certain frustration within us towards them. Oftentimes, hate is admiration in disguise. Like somebody will hate on you simply because they admire to be like you, or they would want to be where you are, or in the kind of position you are in, or living the kind of life you are. But because they have failed to achieve that, they choose to hate on you sometimes. Now, I'm not trying to say that's the description of what is happening between Grimson's and Paul Pogba, but we also know that sometimes some people just do not take a particular liking to particular players. I'll give you an example. There are people who do not like Christian Romero because of his sort of rough character in a way. You have those people. So it does happen. It does happen. So whether that's the case for him or it's otherwise, I cannot say with absolute certainty, but it does happen. Let me see. Is there a player that I didn't like? I'm trying to remember. There must have been some player that I did not like, and not because they were a bad player, but usually maybe because they were rough. That they liked that sort of sportsmanship. Yesterday I was involved in a discussion. Last night, somebody put a question to us. They put a list of midfielders from the Premier League. Meanwhile, it's game over and PSG are champions. They have won the UEFA Super Cup. The referee, Omar Atan, has brought the game to its climax, and PSG have carried the day. So there's that. And they are going into their wild celebrations as you would expect. So we're having a discussion about the best midfielders in Premier League history, and a good number of them put Kevin De Bruyne there, the likes of Patrick Vieira, N'Golo Kante, Rodri, David Silva, Francesco Fabregas, and Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, so many others. People had different picks. You get them in your particular order, depending on your preference. But you could see that people had a particular liking to certain players, either with or without justification. So sometimes it happens. You say Virgil van Dijk or Maldini. I think I'll choose Maldini. Even though I did not watch enough of him in action, I would still pick him over Virgil van Dijk. Because some people have gone on to say he's the best footballer they've seen in Italian football. So for a defender, that's a lot of praise, because usually, as we know, that the game in itself is oftentimes based around forward players. That's something that I take issue to, by the way, that there's a way football debate has been skewed towards favoring players that play in advanced roles as opposed to players that play in other positions. There's this sort of elevation of players who score goals and players who create chances or make assists compared to defenders or central midfielders and things like that. It's something that I don't really buy into. I simply look at it as an execution of everybody's roles. If the goalkeeper is executing his role as he should be, I do not want to compare him with a winger who is equally executing their primary role as a winger or an attacking midfielder. And if a centre back or a left back or a full back is executing their role, I do not want to compare them to a striker. That's just not me. Yes, now, obviously, the hallmark of it, or what tips that debate in the other direction, is because the goal is the most important statistic of the game. So that's why players that score goals tend to have that sort of, bit of a hype. And we know even when we go to the transfer window, attackers are more expensive than defenders and things like that. Okay, you say Suarez or Van Persie in the Premier League? Bit of a difficult question, by the way, when I come to think of it. But I think I'll go with Luis Alberto Suarez. I'll go with Luis Alberto Suarez Diaz. I agree, goalkeepers get no attention as well. Exactly, because let me tell you, a goalkeeper could make 7 saves in a particular game, and a striker scores a hat-trick on the other side. But the goalkeeper will be mentioned, but not in high praise as the striker who has scored a hat-trick. Do you know why? People look at it that because of the hat-trick, the striker's contribution is literally more important as compared to that of the goalkeeper. But if you're expected to score goals and you've only scored 3, if I'm expected to make saves and I've made 7 saves, that means I've performed better than you in my department. If we are bringing numbers to the table, so we cannot use goals and assists as criteria for everything, because then goalkeepers will never have a chance. That's why I'm happy for players like Luka Modric, Rodri, players like, what's his name? The guy who, Cannavaro, some of these guys that have won the Ballon d'Or without really having the numbers of goals and assists on their side. Okay, you say, okay. Leonetao says, so a striker must unequal like Haaland. Let's be real. Must unequal. We do not watch soccer for goalkeepers. Who is the highest signing for a goalkeeper? Again, I'm not going to discuss the prices of the players. Like I said, we know it that attackers cost more than goalkeepers and defenders and midfielders. We know that. But it's a team sport. Basically, the element I want to bring out in that discussion is that it's a team sport. Because if it had been an individual sport, then we would literally only throw on the striker and then let them win the game for the team. But it's not that simple. That everyone in their respective department must contribute towards the overall success of the team. It is also okay for any of us to make the argument that one had a bigger contribution than the other on a given day or in a given season. That's all fine. But in the grand scheme of things, let's not forget it is a team sport. Put out there your team without a goalkeeper, and let's see whether you win or whether you want to concede goals. So let's not lessen the importance of others simply because they're in that, in a behind department. I'll give you another example. And by the way, guys, this is a personal opinion. It is okay if you disagree. It is okay if you have a contrary view to these guys. It's very, very okay and very mature of us to even disagree. So the way I look at it is that for the success of a team, everyone must contribute within their own rights, in their own space. And then there's the cherry on top. I'll give you an example. Lionel Messi, regarded as one of the greatest players ever to grace the game. But Lionel Messi, without his teammates, wouldn't be Lionel Messi. Maybe he would have been half the player. So, in other words, it being a team sport, it has its enablers. Because even the goalkeeper is not a standalone. Because before we get to the goalkeeper, we have defenders who also have to perform a certain role. So I want us to appreciate. Now, you mentioned about we do not watch the game for goalkeepers. Maybe that's your perspective, that you do not watch the game for goalkeepers. I'll give an example. I remember one time we were having a discussion, still almost in similar rights, on this forum. And I was saying, I watch the game for the entertainment of it. Now, a goal subsequently is the icing on the cake of the entertainment that I want in a game. One of the reasons as to why I loved the football of yesterday more than I do the football of today is the football of yesterday allowed players to be more expressive with their talents. I mean, we've cheered on players for simply dribbling past defenders or past their opponents, for simply that, and we cheered them on. They've not scored a goal, but they've entertained us. That's why the goal is the cherry on top for me. So the goal would be the consequence of all the entertainment, like the end product. It is the end product once you've done all this. But for me, it's the entertainment that brings me to the game. As giving reflection, hello, Rio Dandy, how are you doing? As giving reflection of how I fell in love with the sport. I did not fall in love with the sport just because I had seen the ball cross the line. No. It is all the action before the goal that made me fall in love with the sport. So that's how I look at it. I'll give you an example. I love basketball, even though I rarely watch it, or almost barely. I love it. But one of the things that I love about basketball is the dribbles, the passes, the runs. Before that three-pointer comes in, I love the intricate play. I love how the ball is darted around before it gets to a Steph Curry, and he makes a three-pointer. I love that. So I used to play volleyball after my knee was causing me problems and I decided to double down on football. I went into volleyball. And in volleyball, it's one of those sports where you usually accommodate the opportunity to play in whichever space you want to play in. But usually, if you're really, really gifted with your height, they'll leave these guys that guard the net, the spikers and blockers too, But you could be the receiver, you could be the server, whichever it was. I love the sport because I liked it when somebody had a strong spike. I had it when somebody had a good serve. I liked it when the receiver received that ball really, really well, and the interplay before it was set for the spiker. I mean, there's elements to it, to love. I'll give you another example of a different sport. I have had the opportunity to watch some lawn tennis, and one of the things that I love about it is that when somebody puts that ball in one direction and then the opponent player has to run to it, and they also put it in the opposite direction, then the reverse, before we even get to the points score. So all that, So when you look at different sports, You'll appreciate different aspects of the game before the end product of whatever the game is. So, so when it comes to the high signing of goalkeeper, let's not get. Of course, Kepa Arrizabalaga is the most expensive goalkeeper, bought for about £72 million for I think in about 2018 when Chelsea was signing him from Athletic Bilbao, after having lost Thibaut Courtois to Real Madrid. He's the most expensive goalkeeper, and maybe next to him, I stand to be corrected, could be Aston Ramses Baker, joining Liverpool from AC Roma. So, but I know that attackers have cost more. I know that attackers have cost more. So, for me, the point is with the overall appreciation of the game as is, as opposed to this continuous elevation and appreciation of other players, simply because the people who make the discussion want us to believe that they excelled at their job more than others excelled in their jobs. So anyways, I'll leave that debate at that. But let's continue with the discussion. And I hope you'll enjoy it for what it is. We're going to go into the transfer talk for the second part of the discussion for tonight. But just give me a second. Need to check something out before we proceed any further for our discussion on transfers. But in terms of transfers, I think let's begin with Arsenal. I know some people will hate me for it. But there's a reason as to why they make the news. So, okay, Galatasaray are pursuing a deal to sign Gabriel Martinelli from Arsenal, and there had been reports suggesting that that they've made a bid worth about 45 million euros or 40 to 45 million euros to try and sign the 25-year-old Brazilian from Arsenal. But that has not made a lot of headway, and those same reports did seem to suggest that Arsenal had instead offered Ethan Wanyei for 40 million euros in that, those discussions. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, there's some breaking news coming in from David Austin of The Athletic. It says, Chelsea say deadline set at 5 p.m. UK on Friday for Manchester City or any other suitors to send 120 million net bid to sign Enzo Fernandez, or the 25-year-old is staying this summer. Chelsea say payment terms privately communicated to Manchester City plus the midfielder. That's according to The Athletic. Now, this is what I'll say. You know why teams try to set some of these ultimatums is they know that if they can get a certain piece of business on time, it then allows them to go back in the market and explore a replacement should they feel the need to do so. I remember when I think it was FC Bournemouth put a clock on those that were trying to pursue a deal for Anton Semenyo. I think that was last summer. They put a clock to it and then closed it. And then they did, I think, the same thing. He had a release clause. But that release clause was only valid until the 15th of January because they wanted to give themselves 2 extra weeks to find a replacement had somebody actually bid for, or look to pay the release clause for Anton Semenyo. So now, so what then happened was Man City obviously came in and they did what? They scooped him, and Bournemouth went in the market and got a Ryan from Vasco da Gama. Jesus Christ. Oh, come on. Ah, interesting, interesting. Anyways, maybe we'll get an opportunity to discuss that. But still speaking of Arsenal, according to Sami Mokbel of the BBC Sport, he says Arsenal are reigniting their interest in Aston Villa central defender Enzo Konsa. The 28-year-old is still currently on holiday after the World Cup and is not with the Villa squad, or was not with the Villa squad for today's UEFA Super Cup. Now, the Gunners' initial summer move for Enzo Konsa did not materialize, with the London club only willing to pay in the region of £30 million for the England international, who apparently is valued at £60 million by Villa. Now, for me, I've said this, guys, there's no way Enzo Konsa is worth £60 million, not even in this exaggerated transfer window. Konsa played 48 games across all competitions last season for Aston Villa when he helped them win the UEFA Europa League. So we know that Arsenal are trying to find a player that can try and help fill in the void in the absence of William Saliba, who is expected to be out of action for a period of 4 to 5 months, at least speculatively. So given that it's going to heal naturally, it's been hard to put a clock on it. That's why even the 4 to 5 months is speculative, and we do not know whether it will go beyond that. But anything can happen. Simply bear that in mind. So that report is also making the rounds as per transfer gossip and speculation as things stand for now. Then, okay, we'll leave that at that for now and move on to other conversations, because things are getting heated up. Things are happening really, really fast. We know that PSG continue to pursue a deal for Ferran Torres. Then today, Bradley Barcola was a no-show for the game between PSG and Aston Villa, to which further fuels the speculation of leading him away to with the move away from PSG, with Liverpool leading the rest for his signature. So we'll wait and see how that also spans out. Then we've discussed Chelsea's deadline for those interested in signing Enzo Fernandez. According to Fabrizio Romano, Christian Romero to Atletico de Madrid is a here we go agreement in place between clubs, with Tottenham at a 40 million euro package, add-ons included. Inter deal off in July. Barcelona decided not to proceed days ago. Spurs were never gonna sell to Arsenal. Atletico have done it. So the player is waiting for permission to travel to Spain to undergo his medical. So yeah, that is happening really, really fast. Remember, so multiple clubs have been interested in his services, including but not limited to, like I said, Arsenal, Man United, Barcelona, Inter Milan were all interested. Then Xavi Hernandez has agreed to become the new Dutch national team head coach. Done deal. Agreement signed today for former Barcelona head coach. Now, guys, I don't know why. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel pained when I see young managers heading for national team jobs. Why? I find them boring. I find national team jobs boring, especially for young managers. I want to see them in the pressure, in the thick and action of week in, week out. That's why I believe, I want national team football to be for managers in the evenings of their careers, where I grew up from, when you went to the garden, you did not give your grandparents the biggest hoe because it was heavy. It is you, the youthful ones, that held the big hoes. So they held lighter hoes. So, in a way, what I'm trying to say is that something has to, Xavi coaching the Dutch national team, the job is not a bad job. But for me, it feels like a misfit in the sense of he's supposed to be at a club somewhere. I don't know what club would be interested in services. But anyways, he's made the decision. Let's wait and see how he will perform. Anyways, but yeah, Brian Moja, or Mojo, sorry, Brian Majo did sign for Aston Villa only in January from Metis, and now he scored his first goal for the club during the UEFA Super Cup. So it's a good thing, really, really, for him. And then Juventus are going to close the deal for Johan Luciumi from Bologna. So that one is also going through. And then Barcelona did sign 18-year-old Joseu Caicedo from LDU Quito for 2.5 million euros. So it's a loan deal with the buy clause at around 2.5 million euros. So youngster there. Then what's his name? Joao Paulinho has already agreed to personal terms with Aston Villa, and he has told Bayern Munich that he wants to move. So we expect club-to-club talks to start between those two parties. It is one of those deals that I expect that will be closed because, I mean, Bayern Munich ought to count their losses and move on from that one, because he never lived to the bidding when he joined them initially from Fulham. Last season, he spent it on loan to Tottenham Hotspur, while Fenerbahce have confirmed the signing of Romelu Lukaku for 6 million euros from Napoli. Then Dusan Vlahovic is officially a Besiktas player, so all that is happening while it is a here we go after a verbal agreement was struck between Tottenham Hotspur and Inter Milan to sell or to sign Digital Space for 31.5 million euros. Now, guys, remember, Tottenham have spent big in the transfer window, but they're also bringing in the revenue. So we're talking about a fee of nearly 40 million euros for Christian Romero, 31 for Digital Space. They did agree to a deal of worth about, I think it is 46 or 48 million pounds for Luka Vuskovic to head to Brighton and Hove Albion. And so so you can see that they are also bringing in some bit of revenue. We wait to see what more else they can do in the transfer window. We know they are looking for a winger. We know they are looking for a striker as well to support their attack. Then Cristiano Ronaldo did send out a special message to Lionel Messi in the wake of the passing of his father. We know that Cristiano Ronaldo over the weekend recently committed his life to Georgina Rodriguez, his girlfriend / wife for the last 10 years. So those two are doing life for the rest of time if it all goes according to plan. But Cristiano's message to Lionel Messi was simply says, a huge hug to you and your loved ones in this difficult moment. Leo, stay strong. And then Lionel Messi was speaking about his dad. He said, "Dad, you kept asking me to play in one last World Cup. Just days before it began was when your condition got worse. It was the first time you weren't going to be there with me at a tournament, but Mom kept telling me you are going to get better and that you'd be well enough to travel. I kept telling you we were going to reach the World Cup final so you could make the trip. This was my mission once again. After every match I waited for and missed your message. That's when I realized how serious the situation really was. I couldn't stop thinking about going as far as possible, give you more time and the chance to watch one of the games. We reached the final, but you couldn't be there. I wanted to win it so I could bring the trophy to you and show you another one. I couldn't. My legs just couldn't give me any more. This time I tried to push beyond what my body could handle, but I couldn't. I never managed to feel physically right. We did not become the champions, Dad, but you have no idea how much we enjoyed every match. Once again, you are right. I had to be there and play in it. as you told me. Those were the words of some of the words of Lionel Messi upon the passing of his father. There's also another lengthy one, but I will not get into it. So, anyways, then we are also waiting for a wrap up of a deal between Barcelona and Manchester City over a deal to sign Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante. But we know that Barcelona improved on their bid initially from 45 million euros to 65 million euros. But Man City are still not budging. They want to demand more. They want at least 80 million euros to sanction a move for the 30-year-old Spanish midfielder. So we'll have to wait and see how that one fares out. But for now, that is the case. Okay, let's see if there's any major story that we have skipped in terms of transfers. But those are some of the key transfer stories that were. Now, guys, I promised you we were going to do this. I don't know when I'm going to be shooting this, but I'm anticipating maybe over the weekend. That's what my anticipation is to shoot this. My predictions for the Premier League season 2026, 2027. But the Sky Sports supercomputer has predicted it's stable. Now, do not read too much into this. Oftentimes, they do not get it right. But anyways, it's a prediction. Their prediction is that Arsenal will be champions with about 85 points. Man City will come second. Liverpool will come third. Man United fourth. Guess what? I've already written down my predictions in my notebook. I wish Mariam is the one who oftentimes asks me what my notebooks looks like. But I've already jotted, my table predictions here. I'm trying to swap places in there, but I'll look to do that video. And I can see me and the supercomputer have some, similarities in our predictions, especially when it comes to the top four. So they put Man United fourth, they put Chelsea fifth, as I did. They put Tottenham Hotspur's sixth, as I did. Aston Villa seventh, as I did. So they put Bournemouth eighth. So they have Bournemouth in 8th place, Brighton 9th, Brentford 10th, Everton 11th, Fulham 12th, Newcastle 13th, Leeds United 14th, Sunderland 15th, Crystal Palace 16th, Nottingham Forest 17th, Coventry, Ipswich Town, and Hull City are the teams to be relegated according to the Premier League according to the Sky Sport supercomputer. I don't know if we can find is it the Opta? The Opta supercomputer. What for their Premier League predictions? Premier League predictions for excuse me. I'm trying to see if I can source that out and see whether we have some similarities for Opta supercomputer. Computer 2026 27. Let's see if that one is out. They also have their own projections in regards to how they think the season could span out. Oftentimes they get it wrong and then they go from there and things change. But they've already given their championship predictions. They think West Ham will bounce back. But in terms of the Premier League, they are yet to, to produce their own. So let's wait and see. Oh, come on. They also have, I think, predicted this. No. This is last season is stable. It's not their predictions. Anyways, let's wait and see. What their own predictions will be. But before we wrap this conversation tonight, I was hoping to do the transfer gossip and speculation from as compiled by BBC Sport, but maybe we'll get to do that in our morning episode. For those of you that managed to catch the morning conversation, we did that one for about 40 minutes, even despite the circumstances that we were faced. So we managed to chip in, a conversation. So thank you so much for having been part of that. It was a pleasure having you in that conversation. So thank you so much, Rio Dandy, Leonetao, Boss Royal, Pedri, and every single one of you, Raymond Kangumba, Daniel Tuton, Viola, and every single one of you that has been part of tonight's podcast. Until next time, stay blessed. Good night. Bye-bye for now.